I'm gonna play Skeletal Frost Mages in Path of Exile 2, and this is the 0 to hero leveling build guide leading all the way up to endgame. I'll walk you through the choices I made, the gear I found, and the step-by-step evolution, and how to play the leveling build. By the end of this video, you will know if this is the right build for your next character, and you'll be one step closer to the final endgame build I'll cover in my next upcoming build guide video. Now, this time around, I wanted to just kick back and enjoy the game without spending hours theory crafting. So as my league starter, I picked the Frost Mage Lich build guide from Helmbreaker at max roll. My goal here wasn't just to follow it, I wanted to show you how it actually plays out, what feels good, what doesn't, and give you my take along the way. I'll link the build guide in the video description. I started off as Witch, since this is the class we're aiming for this build, and will eventually head into the Lich Ascendancy. From the start, I knew the game plan. Take the left side of the passive tree and start stacking minion damage nodes right away. It's the fastest way to get your army online and actually doing work instead of feeling like you're just swinging wet noodles. The very first skill gem I grabbed in Clearfell was Skeletal Sniper. I set up with 1 sniper and 2 skeletal warriors, and on top of that I used Unearth to spawn bone construct minions out of corpses. Already we had a little squad going. Then things ramped up fast. The first support gem I got was multi-shot, and slapping that onto the Skeletal Sniper just made it rain arrows. More projectiles equals more fun. Simple as that. But the real aha moment came when I picked up Flame Wall, because here's the trick. You can actually command your skeleton sniper to shoot their gas arrow through the flame wall, and when it explodes, it deals insane single target damage and solid AoE at the same time. And this is definitely one of the best leveling combos I've played. From there, I was just layering on supports and upgrades. Got the last gasp support to keep my warriors alive longer. Upgraded Unearth and Skeletal Sniper as soon as I could, and by now the combo was carved in stone. Flame wall down, gas arrow into it, big boom. Rinse and repeat. At this point, both the single target and AoE damage felt surprisingly good for such a scuffed early game setup. Honestly, the build was starting to feel smooth way earlier than I expected. From here, I just kept cruising down the passive tree, picking up every juicy minion damage node I could. One that really stands out is the Power of the Dead. It gives 20% increased minion damage and 4% increased attack and cast speed, and honestly, you feel that immediately. Minions that were already shredding just starting going turbo. Then came the next big upgrade. I got my hands on the Fire Attunement support for Skeleton Sniper, and this was absolutely perfect because we were already running Flame Wall. Now every gas arrow wasn't just exploding, it was exploding with extra fire damage. The synergy here was off the charts and turned the existing setup into overdrive. Not long after, I unlocked my first spirit gem and picked up Raging Spirits. These little guys spawn every time you cast a fire skill, which we're doing all the time anyway thanks to Flame Wall. So now I was dropping flame walls, detonating gas arrows through them, and constantly spitting out Raging Spirits as additional damage. Already at this stage, the screen was permanently flooded with minions. And to really seal the deal, I threw another last gasp support onto Skeletal Sniper, just to make sure my MVPs could stay alive and keep firing. By this point, the build was just cruising. Damage felt smooth, clear speed was great, and I was actually excited to see how it would hold up against a real test. So I finally reached Count Geoner. I walked in, set up my Flame Wall plus Gas Arrow combo, Raging Spirits starting swarming in, and then it just melted. Honestly, I don't think I've ever had this fight feel that easy on a league starter. Now, if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider hitting the thumbs up like button. Rolling into Act 2, the momentum just kept building. Gear-wise, I did manage to pick up some nice upgrades along the way. A scepter with increased minion damage and +2 to minion skills, a helmet with +1 level to minion skills, and even an amulet with +1 as well. By the end of Act 2, I was rocking a level 12 Skeletal Warrior and a level 11 Skeleton Sniper, which is pretty good for this stage of the game. And the bosses, same story. The Dreadnought at the end of Act 2 went down without a fight, and Jamanra, who can sometimes be tricky, just folded to the single target damage combo. That Flame Wall plus Gas Arrow explosion was just melting in. The build didn't just hold together, it felt dominant. And this with gear that was mostly found by random drops in Act 1. Act 3 was just smooth, no other way to put it. The passive tree was filling out nicely, scooping up all those juicy minion damage and survivability nodes, and at this point the build wasn't just holding its own, it felt like I was ahead of the curve. This is also where I dipped into trading for the first time, and man, this one made a difference. I got the Enfolding Dawn body armor for a couple of exalts and picked up some really solid upgrades. A +2 minion skill levels amulet and a helmet with the same stat, just stacking those extra minion levels as high as I could. Remember, that's the bread and butter of this build while leveling. Your damage skyrockets just by pumping skill levels. The single target combo of Flame Wall plus Skeleton Sniper's Gas Arrow was still punching above its weight. Honestly, it's one of those setups that feels almost unfair for how early in the game you get access to it. And after rolling through Doriani like it was nothing, it was time to push into Act 4. At this point, the build had carried me so smoothly that I felt ready to make the big switch, moving away from the temporary sniper setup and into the Frost Mage core that will define the endgame. Now, before we proceed, you should know that I'll be releasing the final endgame build guide soon, so make sure to click the subscribe button to not miss out on that. Now, this was the big moment, the point where the build really started to look like what it's meant to be in the endgame. Up until now, skeleton snipers have been doing a ton of heavy lifting, but it was finally time to say goodbye and unleash the real MVPs, skeletal frost mages. So here's what I did. I pulled the multi-shot and last gasp supports off the snipers and slapped them right onto the frost mages. Snipers gone, frost mages in. And wow, the difference was immediate. The screen just started freezing and shattering everywhere. To push it even further, I used a lesser jeweler's orb on the frost mage gem and added the feeding frenzy support. This one is a game changer. It makes the mages way more aggressive, always in the fight, and of course that means way more damage. On top of that, I added some additional skills. Elemental weakness as a curse to reduce elemental resistances, and supported it with focus curse so it actually pops faster, and efficiency to lower mana cost. I dropped in frostbomb with the potent exposure support for even more cold exposure, which makes the frost mages melt enemies faster. I also used the jeweler's orb on elemental weakness and added the spell cascade support. This makes the raging spirit spawn from using elemental weakness, so we no longer needed flame wall to spawn them. And while we were at it, I took a moment to upgrade raging spirits from level 4 to level 10. And honestly, this still blows my mind. I had been cruising through all of Act 3 with raging spirits stuck at level 4, and I didn't even notice. That's how smooth this build was feeling. So the loop was simple. Curse enemies with elemental weakness to also spawn raging spirits, drop frostbomb, and then sit back while the frost mages annihilate everything on the screen. And of course, use unearth on corpses to summon bone construct minions. With the Frost Mages online, it was time to supercharge the build with our first Ascendancy. Since we're going Lich, I went straight for Soulless Form. It regenerates mana equal to 6% of your life every second, which basically means you can cast non-stop without worrying about running dry. It doesn't sound flashy on paper, but in practice it feels amazing. Then came the second Ascendancy, and this is where things went from smooth to spicy. I picked up the Necromantic Conduit, which gives all your minions in your presence Unholy Might. That's a straight up 30% of all their damage gained as extra chaos damage. It's just nuts. There's one catch though. You lose 5% of your maximum mana each second while it's active. And that is exactly why we picked up Soulless Form first, as the regen completely offsets that drain. So if you're following along, don't flip the order. Go Soulless Form first, then Necromantic Conduit. Otherwise, yeah, you're gonna have a bad time. After this point, the build really started feeling like an unstoppable engine. Honestly, I barely touched the build during Act 4 because it was working so well. Eventually, I added Skeletal Brute with Feeding Frenzy and Last Gasp, upgraded some laggy gems and grabbed the Chronomancy passive, which increases skill effect duration. Super underrated node. Longer elemental weakness, longer frost bomb, longer pain offering, everything just felt smoother and easier to manage. The cherry on top came when I unlocked Skeletal Clerics. Now, they don't really do any damage, so I slapped Meat Shield on them to make them tankier. But here's the kicker. They add another unique minion type, which means more bonus damage from the muster support. It's like free DPS for just having them around. By the end of Act 4 and the interlude acts, the build wasn't just strong. It was fun, diverse, and felt like a real army. Now here's the exciting part. We're officially ready for the endgame as everything is set up. So if you want to stay tuned for the final endgame build guide video, make sure to hit the subscribe button because I'm gonna break down every synergy, gear, and skilled setup and give you the final walkthrough of the Wild Blizzard Skeleton setup. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, and if you got any questions or noticed things I missed along the way, drop a comment below. And to see my other Path of Exile 2 build guide videos, click on the video card on the screen.